Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you for a few minutes about one of my favorite subjects, accelerated state conditioning, a 5-minute daily motivational routine designed to elevate mood and permanently change behavior. I got the idea for accelerated state conditioning, which I like to shorten to ASK. I got the idea for ASK clear back in 1976, but it has taken me a lifetime to develop its full potential. But now I'm happy to say I feel like I've come up with a fast, easy, fun, yet powerful tool for making changes. Changes in mood, changes in behavior, emotions, energy levels, attitude, and motivation. Changes in mood to include a dramatic and rapid escalation from the severest lows to the severest of highs in literally minutes. Changes in behavior to include the elimination of unwanted habits, compulsions, and even addictions, and/or the creation of new, positive, productive habits. Changes in emotions to include the elimination of unwanted, irrational fears, inhibitions, and even phobias, and/or the creation of new, positive, healthy ways to react. Changes in energy levels, if for nothing more than getting out of our comfort zone. Changes in motivation, if for nothing more than to increase our ability to care for ourselves properly. The basic idea for ASK came to me quite by accident. I'd been working for about 4 years as a residential realtor in the mid-70s, but I was not doing well. Actually, my sales numbers were so low that if it hadn't have been for my ex-wife's income as an RN, I would have been forced to quit long before. As I say, I wasn't making it in sales, and thinking back on it, understandably so. I was painfully shy, inhibited, fearful, and in addition, I was both overweight and quite depressed. Not exactly the profile of a successful salesman, I'm sure you'll agree. And to make things worse, I suffered from something called sales call reluctance. Anyone here familiar with that term? All right. The resistance to making sales calls. And when I experienced this tendency to procrastinate, I could dream up every excuse in the book not to approach a potential client. Especially for sale by owners, which in the 70s was the bread and butter of a successful realtor, probably still is. Anyone familiar with the term for sale by owner? What is it? Exactly, it's someone that's put their house up for sale themselves in hopes of saving the commission. And a successful realtor will approach a sales by owner and try to obtain a listing to convince them that they can get a better price for them. So, in addition to sales call reluctance, I had a severe case of stage fright. I can remember the embarrassment of my first Toastmasters meeting. When it came my turn to speak, I walked up to the podium, opened my mouth to start to introduce myself, and I literally froze. I ended up having to actually sit down without saying a single word. I was petrified. The accidental discovery I spoke of a few minutes ago came about when I was practicing a listing presentation speech one evening while alone in my real estate office. Is anyone here familiar with that term, listing presentation? What is that? That's right. It's a motivational talk or sales pitch, if you will, that it's designed to impress the prospective home seller with your sales skills and hopefully convince them to list their property exclusively with you and your company. Anyway, I was practicing this listing presentation by smiling and speaking out loud while looking into a mirror of sorts that had been formed by the interior office lights reflecting off of the large plate glass windows in the front of the office. And after maybe 40 or 50 minutes of huffing and puffing, I started to notice some changes in how I was feeling and how I was acting. My voice started to project better. I was getting louder, and my voice wasn't cracking quite as much as it normally did, unlike now with age. My gestures seemed to be more natural, more animated. My eye contact with myself in the mirror felt a lot better. And because normally I didn't feel like looking at myself that much in the mirror, but I was actually beginning to enjoy it. My smiles felt more natural, more spontaneous, less artificial, less forced. And I was starting to feel really good. I mean, really good. I was starting to feel like I'd had a couple of drinks, but I hadn't had any alcohol. And I was getting excited. I started thinking, wow, maybe I really can become a better salesperson. Maybe I've accidentally stumbled onto a way of overcoming shyness, introversion, inhibitions. Just get in front of a mirror, start smiling and talking out loud. And I'm starting to envision success. Think back on where I told you I had been coming from. A position of weakness, and all of a sudden I'm moving from failure to super salesman in an hour, salesperson, or so it seemed at the moment. Now, all I had to do was the same thing, speak positively out loud while looking into a mirror and smiling. Right before I would go out on a listing presentation, and I'd have a better chance of making a sale, of getting the homeowners to list their house with me. I'd be more upbeat, more confident, more self-assured, more convincing. Well, what do you think was happening to me that evening? Would anyone venture a guess as to why was I feeling and acting differently? Why was my mood elevating? Why were my fears and inhibitions melting away? Yes, I was getting high, wasn't I? I was even getting a little grandiose, wouldn't you say? I think I was experiencing what people refer to as a natural high, like a runner's high, or in this case, a stage performer's high. So to make a long story short, yay. No, I didn't become an extrovert overnight. I still dropped back to periods of fearfulness and shyness, but there were some changes in my behavior, some permanent changes, perhaps even some changes to my personality in a way. For example, after that evening, my eye contact was always much better with others. I was quicker to smile when socializing, and I was more comfortable in crowds. All of this, I believe, because I had a mind expansion of sorts during that evening, and had come to realize that I'd uncovered a powerful way to change behavior, to change mood. And as a result, I did start listing more homes for sale after that evening. I did become a better salesperson using this new skill, this new knowledge, this new tool. In fact, within a year, I was a high producer for Red Carpet Realty and the largest realtor in town at the time. And then shortly thereafter, I opened my own real estate company, New Method Realty, the first discounted real estate company in the Valley with 3 offices, Scottsdale, Glendale, Mesa. So, as I say, things got better. But then sometime later down the road, I had another accidental discovery, whatever, that eventually led to something even more significant. The idea that allows me to say, in 5 minutes, you can dramatically elevate your mood. You can create this natural high in less than 5 minutes with this discovery I made. So instead of huffing and puffing for 40 or 50 minutes to elevate my mood, I discovered a way to reach this natural high in literally minutes, to repeat myself, sorry. And I got to the point where I could generate significant elevations of mood and confidence in under 5 minutes. I'm belaboring the point, I'm sorry. Well, I don't want to dwell too much on this subject, this new discovery, but because you don't have to get high to benefit from the ask routine. Just elevating your mood a little is good enough. But getting back to this discovery, what happened was that I noticed that during my mood elevating sessions in front of the mirror, I would sometimes experience goosebumps, gooseflesh, chills. And when this pleasurable experience happened, my mood seemed to elevate faster. The technical term for this experience, the chills, the goosebumps, etc., is frisson, from the French word meaning cold. Do any of you here experience episodes of frisson? Do any of you occasionally get goosebumps or chills that are accompanied by feelings of intense pleasure and elevation in mood? What's been your experience? That's been my experience. And to get back to my story, when I experienced one or more episodes of frisson, during the ask routine, I would reach my goal of the natural high, the confident, upbeat mood, etc., more quickly. So I started thinking, if I could create one or more episodes of frisson at will, I could cut down on the amount of time it took me to reach the natural high that I sought. And sure enough, quite by accident again, I actually discovered a way to evoke, create, bring on frisson at will. Not unlike some people can, for example, lower their blood pressure using biofeedback. Same principle. Now, by the way, this method I'm talking about is fully spelled out in Chapter 5 of my book, Accelerated State Conditioning. $3.95 for the digital version on Amazon, $9.95 print. A little plug here. And now, recent research at McGill University in Canada explained gave a possible explanation of what's going on here, of the goosebumps and the mood elevation. They studied people who frequently get goosebumps and positive chills, and found that often these people would describe themselves as sensitive. A lot of them had careers, for example, in music and art, etc. And during their studies, the researchers discovered that frisson is linked to significant increases in dopamine. What's dopamine? Anyone? Exactly. It's the major neurotransmitter, chemical in the brain, etc., found that is associated with, in parts of the brain that are associated with pleasure and with motivation. And as an interesting aside, many health problems are associated with abnormally low levels of dopamine, including Parkinson's disease, addictions of all sorts, and chronic depression. They're all associated, scientifically, experiments show, with low levels of dopamine. Now, can you see the value of this? All of a sudden, the light goes off. Dopamine and mood elevation, fast mood elevation. So, okay. Let me think here. The second part of the ask routine, because this is it's important, but a lot of people aren't interested in elevating mood so much, but they are interested in changing habits. So the second part of the ask routine, pertaining to permanently changing behavior, involves, let me back up. What do we mean by behavior? What comes to mind? Exactly. Yes. Behavior can include a wide variety of subjects, right? Habits, thoughts, emotions. Well, although I originally got the idea for Ask while practicing a listening presentation, it quickly became obvious to me that as I repeated positive words and phrases into the mirror, I didn't have to be making a speech to elevate my mood. Instead of practicing a speech, I could simply repeat long lists of positive words and phrases out loud, while smiling into the mirror, solely for the purposes of elevating my mood. Then I'd have a great daily motivational routine to start my day in a better frame of mind, no matter what was going on in life. And thus, the accelerated state conditioning routine was born. So then, after getting into the habit of using the Ask routine every morning, it became evident that I could form these positive words and phrases into goals and positive affirmations, which are simply statements of intent, with the idea of not only elevating my mood, but permanently changing my behavior, my habits, my reactions, emotional reactions to events. So I immediately started looking around for sources of affirmations, and I remembered a book that I'd read years prior titled Self-Talk by the psychologist Shad Helmstetter. Anyone read that book? It's a good book, right? And by repeating affirmations from this book while smiling and looking into a mirror, I was actually using a well-known process for changing habits and emotional responses. This process is usually called auto-suggestion, or sometimes self-hypnosis. Have any of you had experience with auto-suggestion, self-hypnosis? What was your experience? Positive experience, right? Yeah, it's my experience that the frequent repetition of affirmations in the form of autosuggestion leads to permanent changes in the subconscious mind, which control automatic behavior, automatic emotional responses. After using this new method of using affirmations as part of the Ask morning routine, I have over a period of time come up with what I believe to be 5 essential components of an effective affirmation. You have some handouts there that you can look at about them, and you can also go to superafs.com, one of my websites, and read about them there. Essentially, as you see, the 5 components of a SuperAff are number 1, first, when you repeat a affirmation that you don't truly believe, you're probably creating more problems than you're solving. Because studies show that repeating an unbelievable affirmation, such as "I'm rich," when in fact you're not, maybe you're really just dirt poor, not only doesn't create a positive change, it more than likely creates a negative response subconsciously, just like lying to yourself probably does. Second, SuperAffs are specific. When you repeat a positive affirmation, the more specific the wording, the more likely it's to become effective. For example, instead of saying, "I like it when I watch my weight," a more specific positive self-affirmation might be something like, "I like it when I weigh myself every morning." There's a much better chance the subconscious mind is going to understand what in the heck you're trying to change. Third, SuperAffs are repeated daily. It's critical to repeat super Fs at least once a day until the new behavior is firmly established or an unwanted one extinguished. 66 days, say 2 months, is about average for a habit formation according to one recent study. But with super Fs, you're going to start experiencing partial changes right away, because you're repeating them daily. You're reminded daily of your goals, so to speak. Now, although once a day is good enough, frequent repetition of this super F throughout the day can even speed up this process, the creation of the habit or the extinguishing of the unwanted habit quickly, more quickly. Fourth, super Fs are visualized. For example, if your positive affirmation is about weight control and you want to establish the habit of weighing yourself daily, then you would picture yourself on the scale while repeating the super F. Studies show visualizing affirmations create stronger reception to suggestion by the subconscious mind. And fifth, super Fs are repeated when in an elevated positive mood. There's evidence, for example, at the end of your Ask morning routine, when your mood is elevated. There's evidence that learning, subconscious, memorization, etc., can be brought about faster and more effectively when in an elevated positive mood. If you think back over memories, prior memories, that are especially significant to you, they were probably associated with very emotional events. Right? Okay. Now, regarding super Fs, once you've learned how to structure a good affirmation using these guidelines, you can customize your own super Fs for best results depending on your personal goals. Well, this concludes my introductory remarks on Ask and super Fs. For additional information, I would refer you to my website, Accelerated State Conditioning, all one word, run together.com, which contains free book excerpts covering what I've been talking about. And there are links to Amazon.com. As I say, $3.95 digital. Download it now to your smartphone. $9.95 print. Amazon will get it to you in a day or two. Okay, thank you. And now I'm going to open it up for your questions, comments, guffaws, whatever.